Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I invite you to join me on an emotional love story between a seasoned woman who has bravely raised her child alone, lythica, and a principled man with an upright soul and a warm heart, Officer Hung. Their love story isn't a rosy fairy tale, nor an easy one. It is a journey marked by silent struggles, hidden wounds, swallowed tears, and moments when they nearly let go of each other. Yet above all, it's a bond built on understanding, trust, and a quiet yet profound love that holds them together. Just when it seemed the storms had passed, Hung's mother, who had once fiercely opposed their relationship, suddenly changed her attitude. She appeared gentler, more sympathetic, even bringing up conversations about the couple's future. Believing that his mother had finally accepted Hoai, Hung returned home with joy, carrying the hope of a complete and happy family. But he had no idea, it was all part of a carefully laid plan. A performance staged by the very mother he had always respected. Because deep in her heart, Hoai had never been the daughter-in-law she desired. The woman she truly wanted for her son was Hung, the well-mannered, well-educated niece from the neighboring family, someone with a proper background and strong social standing. And so, while Hung and Ca naively believed that their efforts had softened the mother's heart, a hidden scheme was quietly waiting for the right moment to strike. Will their love be strong enough to overcome such a calculated opposition? Will Hung realize the truth before it's too late? And will Hoai, after all the pain she's endured, still have the faith to keep holding his hand? All will be revealed in the upcoming episodes. Don't take your eyes off the screen, because today's story will lead us through the rawest slices of love, filial piety, and the painful choice between following the heart and honoring one's family duty. The shabby little house, where Hoai and her son had taken shelter for so many months, finally gave in to the harshness of nature. One stormy night, the metal roof was torn off, and the rickety walls collapsed amid the howling wind and pouring rain. Everything fell apart. With nowhere left to hide, mother and child could only cling to each other beneath a soaked tarpaulin, shivering in the blinding rain, enveloped in cold and despair. But just when Ca felt completely cornered, with no way out, someone who had always silently watched over her steps chose to act, quietly, yet resolutely. That man, Hung, had secretly purchased a small piece of land on higher, safer ground. Nothing grand, just enough to shield them from the sun and rain, a place where mother and child could finally have something to call home. He called that land our future nest. Even while facing his mother's disapproving glares and harsh words, Hung never once faltered. He didn't argue, didn't shout, he simply looked at her and said, gently yet firmly, "Mom, I know you have your dreams and hopes for me, a stable life, a respectable future. But to me, happiness isn't about status or wealth. I love one person, and that person is Hoai. If choosing her means I must walk out of this house once again, then I will. I may lose everything, money, reputation, even your pride. But I can't lose her." That evening, Hung didn't go home. He stood outside the old rented room, where Ca had taken temporary refuge after the storm, his eyes soft, his voice carrying a simple invitation filled with meaning. "Ca, tonight, I'd like to invite you and your son to dinner at my house. My mother may not have truly accepted you yet. But I want you there, not as a guest, but as the woman I love and cherish." Hoai stood still. She had never asked for anything extravagant. All she had ever longed for was sincerity. Someone who would stand up for her. Someone who would choose her. Her hand gently gripped her son's. Her heart trembled, and she nodded. They both knew the road ahead would still be rough. But tonight, they would walk through that door not as outsiders, but as a family, taking the first steps to build something called trust. When the door opened, warm light filled the house, but it wasn't enough to chase away the chill radiating from the eyes of the woman seated at the dining table. Hung's mother, stern posture, sharp gaze, did not utter a word of greeting. She quietly turned her head, as if completely unaware of Hoai and her child's presence. No smile. No small talk. The silence weighed like a stone on their hearts. Still, Ca politely bowed her head and greeted softly. Her child chirped happily, ran toward Hung, and nestled into his arms, the place where he always felt the truest warmth. Dinner was served. The dishes were laid out neatly, each one lovingly prepared by Hung that afternoon, knowing this night marked a turning point. Yet, a heavy fog of tension lingered around the table. As Ca tried to feed her child, her hands trembled. She awkwardly wiped her fingers and clumsily offered a spoonful. Noticing this, Hung said nothing. He gently lifted the child into his lap and calmly, lovingly fed the boy himself. That small act, natural in any loving family, became a thorn in the eyes of the woman across the table. Suddenly, a loud clatter rang out. She slammed her chopsticks hard on the table. Silence froze the room. Then, her voice, sharp and cold, cut through the air. She's the mother. She should care for her own child. Why are you holding him? Are you her husband, or her servant? Each word sliced through the fragile piece like a blade. Hoai lowered her head, her hands suspended mid-air. She could feel her child's puzzled gaze scanning the room, too young to understand, but clearly sensing that the warmth was gone. Hung took a deep breath. He didn't shout. He didn't retaliate. Instead, he looked up at his mother and spoke slowly, firmly, with quiet conviction. I just wanted to let her have one proper meal. A meal where she doesn't have to juggle eating and comforting a child. A meal where she can simply be a woman. Not just a mother. The house was so silent, you could hear the soft clink of a spoon landing in a bowl. The mother rose abruptly. Without saying another word, she turned and walked away, her steps heavy, but resolute. And then there were three. With an invisible distance stretching between every breath. Hoai lowered her face, a tear silently rolling down her cheek. She didn't sob, but her frail shoulders quivered, trying to hold in the sorrow that words could not express. Hung wrapped his arms around her. No need for too many words. Just a gentle embrace, a warm breath upon her shoulder. Enough to make this fragile woman feel she wasn't alone. It's okay, love. As long as we're together. One day, she'll understand. The sky unleashed a torrential downpour. The wind howled, lashing violently against the makeshift riverside shelters. Broadcasts blaring from loudspeakers warned of an incoming flash flood, sending residents into a panic as they scrambled to find shelter. Muddy, raging waters surged in, carrying branches, debris, and a growing sense of fear among those in the lowlands. Inside a small shack made of wooden planks and covered by tarps, Hoai clung tightly to her son. They huddled in a corner, her arms wrapped protectively around the little boy, too young to understand why the rain was pouring into their home, why his mother trembled and wept in silence. Just when all seemed lost, a beam of light pierced through the rainstorm from afar, headlights from a motorbike. The roar of the engine rose like a lifeline against the sound of the storm. Hung appeared, drenched in his raincoat, stepping off the bike without hesitation. His eyes scanned the flooding shack, and he ran straight in, unfazed by the muddy water already rising past his knees. He scooped the child into his arms, then grabbed Ca's hand, a firm, unyielding grip. This place isn't safe anymore. I came to bring you and the baby home. I know, my mother still hasn't accepted this. But I've already made things clear to her. Now's not the time to hesitate. The most important thing is that you and our child are safe." His words rang out amid the crashing rain, the churning waters, and the battering wind, like a vow made before the fury of nature itself. CA stood frozen. And in that moment, her tears fell, not from fear, but because for the first time in her life, she truly felt what it meant to be protected. Not out of pity, not out of duty, but out of love, a love so real, it defied judgment and storm alike just to reach her. She broke down, sobbing, her cries rising and mingling with the rain. Hung gently wrapped his arms around her shoulders, whispering, "I'm here now. You're safe. No matter how fierce the storm gets out there, you still have me." And so, the three of them, a family not yet accepted by the world, but bound together by heart, left behind the little shack as it slowly sank into the rising floodwaters. After the raging flood, the three of them found temporary shelter in a small room that Hung had borrowed from a colleague. Though humble, it was dry, warm, and, most importantly, peaceful. That afternoon, as the child slept soundly, Hung quietly pulled a folder from his backpack. He sat down in front of Hoai, his eyes firm yet gentle. "There's something I want to show you." He unfolded a drawing. It was a blueprint of a small plot of land, situated on high ground, near a stream, bathed in sunlight. Behind it was an open patch of earth, just enough to grow vegetables, raise a few chickens, maybe plant some flowers. The simplest things that a wounded woman might quietly dream of. Beside the blueprint was a stack of documents, already signed, already notarized. "I've made the deposit. I chose this land carefully. It won't flood. The foundation is solid, and it's close to a school. You can build a home, grow your garden, raise chickens, live the peaceful life you've always longed for. This place is yours. No one can take it away." CA was speechless. She looked at the documents in front of her, then at the man sitting across, still the same eyes, the same man who once sheltered her and her child through the storm, now offering to build her a home. She quietly stood, walked to the drawer, and pulled out an old, slightly wrinkled envelope, containing the money she had painstakingly saved through extra work, selling goods, and careful budgeting. She placed the envelope in front of Hung, her voice choked with emotion. "I know it's not much, but it's what I've saved. I can't just accept this from you. Even if it's you, I want to pay it back, little by little. If not, then, keep your name on the title deed. I just don't want people to talk. I want to hold on to what little pride I have left, as a single mother." The room fell silent. A breeze whispered in through the crack in the door, carrying the soft rustling of leaves. Hung said nothing. He simply pushed the envelope gently back toward her. "I don't want your money. Use it for the child. That land, it's something I want to do, for the woman I love. You don't owe me anything, CA. I only hope for one thing. That you won't walk away from me. That's all I need." A tear fell silently onto the table. And then another. CA broke down in tears, not from shame or sorrow, but from overwhelming emotion. Because for the first time in her life, she understood what it meant to be loved and valued, without condition. Without enough money to build a brick house, Hung and CA decided on a different path, slower, harder, but filled with a warmth that was uniquely theirs. They found an old wooden house that had been dismantled. The former owner was selling every beam, every wall panel, every stone tile at an affordable price. And so, they began rebuilding their home, not with wealth, but with their hands and their hope. From that day on, every morning, Hung would rush back during breaks from his police shifts to help CA with the construction. He wielded hammers, drills, carefully measuring each beam and window frame. When he wasn't around, CA kept working, unafraid to carry bricks, mix cement, stack stones, and shave wood like a true craftswoman. Her hair was tangled with wood dust. Her shirt soaked with sweat. Her hands tanned and rough. But on her small face, there was always a bright, unwavering smile. Not a dreamy or painted smile, but the smile of someone building, with her own hands, the very first home of her life. Hung knew, no matter how strong she was, some tasks were simply too much for one small woman. So after a few days, he quietly hired 2 skilled workers to help with the house frame, the roof, and the more technical tasks, but asked them to act as if they were just helping a friend, never mentioning he was paying them. He didn't want to hurt her pride. And then, the day finally came. The frame of the house was complete. There was no full furniture yet. No paint, no fence. But there was a roof for shelter, windows that welcomed sunlight, and a firm, dry floor that no longer turned to mud when it rained. CA stood before the house, hands still covered in soil, eyes brimming with tears. She took a few steps forward and placed her hand on the newly installed wooden wall, whispering quietly. Not clear if to herself, or to the man standing silently behind her. I used to think that in this life, my child and I would never have a real home. A place where we wouldn't be thrown out in the middle of the night. Where the roof didn't leak after every storm. Just this is enough for me. Hung said nothing. He stepped forward and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. From now on, this is your home. And it's our home. The evening breeze swept through the glassless windows. The temporary curtains fluttered like a gentle wave, as if welcoming a new chapter in their lives. One built on love, on sweat, on silent tears. And above all, on hope. They thought that after all the storms they had weathered, their love would finally be accepted. But life, once again, struck them with a heavy blow, this time not from poverty, but from deep-seated prejudice and the wounded pride of a mother. One afternoon, just as Hung returned home from duty and hadn't even changed his clothes, his mother burst into the house, furious, clutching a stack of documents in hand. Land purchase contracts. Receipts for construction materials. All in Hung's name, discovered by accident while she was cleaning the cabinet. Her face flushed red with rage. Without giving Hung a chance to explain, she shoved the papers to the floor and screamed. So this is what you've been doing? Spending your hard-earned money to build a house for her and her child? Do I mean nothing to you anymore? Has she manipulated you this far already? Hung stood frozen, unable to say a word before she stormed out, blazing not only with anger but with the deep pain of a mother who could not accept that her good son had given everything to a woman labeled as a single mother. And then, the wound deepened. That evening, while CA was sweeping the yard, the mother came. Unannounced. Before CA could say a word, she walked straight into the yard, her eyes burning, her voice like a whip. I know everything. You think I'm too stupid to see it? From the beginning, all you wanted was to cling to Hung for a house, for his money. How much do you want? I'll pay you. Take the money and get out of my son's life. Each word struck like a blade. It wasn't the first time CA had been insulted. But never before had it hurt like this. Not because she was misunderstood, but because the one saying those things was the mother of the man she loved. And worst of all, she had no idea that the house she called a handout was soaked in CA's sweat. Every beam, every panel, CA had carried, measured, and built with her own hands. Nights spent calculating in silence. Days of exhausting work to save every penny. And now, all of it dismissed with a single line, how much do you want? I'll pay. CA stood still. She didn't reply. Her lips pressed tightly together, her hands gripping the broom, as if holding on to the last shred of calm. But the tears fell. Not out of weakness, but because the pain was too much to bear. Now she stood at a crossroads. If she walked away, she'd keep her dignity, protect Hung's peace, and silence those who called her a gold digger, a clinger. But if she stayed, she would have to endure the misunderstanding, the insults, the disdain. Even though her love was real. Even though her sacrifices were real. So what should she choose? Let go, so others could be satisfied? Or hold on, to a love worth fighting for, even if it meant more wounds? Inside her, there had never been more storms than there were now. The answer will slowly be revealed in the next episode. Can a love that is quiet yet unwavering, pure yet powerful, truly overcome deep-rooted prejudice, the lingering scars of the past, and relentless opposition from family? Can a woman who has endured so much bitterness, who has carried the weight of being both mother and father alone, finally step beyond the whispers of judgment, to live a life she truly deserves? A life where she is loved, respected, and free to be herself? All of it remains a question at the crossroads of pain and courage. Stay with us on this journey, because what lies ahead is filled with surprises, tears, and moments that will stir your heart. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss a single emotional chapter. See you in the next episode, where love will be tested, and perhaps finally healed.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, cảm ơn mọi người vì hôm nay mọi người đã tiếp tục theo dõi kênh của mình. Thì hôm nay kênh của mình tiếp tục mang đến cho mọi người câu chuyện tình yêu quản lý Hoai ca và cảnh sát Hồng nha mọi người. Như mọi người cũng có thể thấy là mấy cái vết thương ở trên mặt mình thì hiện tại nó vẫn chưa đỡ lên. Hiện tại mấy hôm trước thì do bị thương nên là cái tần suất ra video nó bị giảm. Bữa nay thì sức khỏe của mình đã khá hơn nên mình sẽ ra video đều hơn. Hy vọng là mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn để có thể ủng hộ tinh thần cho mình ra nhiều video hơn, và mong rằng mọi người sẽ góp ý cho những video của mình để những video sau mình ra thì mình sẽ cố gắng làm hay hơn những video trước, và rất mong nhận được sự góp ý và đóng góp của mọi người. Và nếu như mọi người yêu quý kênh mình cũng như là muốn kênh ra video nhanh và nhiều hơn thì mọi người hãy like cũng như là chia sẻ video để nhiều người biết tới nha. Và hãy để lại bình luận dưới video và nhớ đăng ký kênh và chuông thông báo để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào mọi người nhé.